Echoes. It's probably one of the most important parts of this whole game. It really sets up what style you're going to be playing when you go into a duel. It gives you extra bonuses onto your cards. And today I'm going to teach you about every echo there is and what play style they kind of are suited to and how you may play when you put them into your deck. I've played around with pretty much all of them, gone against pretty much all of them. The way that I play is I like to rewatch my duels or really take notice of how my opposition is playing and how I could have countered that going forward. And this is, I find, the best way to learn. If you are watching your opponent, watching yourself and seeing where you went wrong, and next time when you come up against someone with the same echo that may be playing the same way, you can then implement why you lost last time, implement the change, and then beat them this time. Like, I remember when I first come up against some Harry decks back on a stream a week or so ago, I got beat every time. Seriously, Harry would absolutely nail me every time. But now, I like going against a Harry deck because I went and I looked back on those duels, I studied those duels, see where I went wrong, and seen where I could beat them. Okay, so this is going to be a kind of part one of a 2 series of videos about echoes and then about dueling. So now let's go and have a look at all of these echoes. As you can see, we are over in echoes. We have 9 echoes to go through. We'll start off with Harry Potter and work our way down. If you didn't know, Harry enhances spell cards with an MP cost of 3 or less. So the enhanced cards receive a 49% damage increase or a 17% healing increase. 49% doesn't sound like very much, but he will be continually doing spells, because it's everything below 3 MP. By the time one spell has finished, he will be ready to do another spell. Expelliarmus, Apugno, Broomstick, Expulsio, all of these things are going to be continually coming at you over and over and over again. You'll probably lay down a Niffler as well, get that MP cycling even faster. Lottie at the back as well. With all these spells coming at you so fast, it is just going to be an absolute barrage. What you need to do is every time you move, you need to make sure it is as far as possible. I know it sounds silly, but go from one side of your board to the other side of the board. Make sure every movement is necessary. Don't make those small unnecessary movements. I do them all the time. You think you want to go somewhere and then you click it and then you go somewhere else and you end up using 2 movement cards. There is a little sweet spot where if you go to move and you click before a certain amount of time, I don't know what the time is, maybe 1 or 2 seconds, you only use 1 movement card. You just need to play around with this and don't just waste moves. Seriously, if you waste moves and you end up in the same spot, he will absolutely lay nukes down on you. Expelliarmus hits for like 300 damage, and it only costs 3 MP. By the time he does it, because it has a bit of a rev up, he'll be ready to lay a Pugno on you, and those things absolutely rape as well. They absolutely smash you. Make sure every move you has intent with it, and there is a reason you're doing it. Obviously, you need to avoid attacks like Expelliarmus and that, but make sure you're moving a long way. Get the most out of every movement card. So if there's anything else you would like to add, let me know down in the comments below. Just put like Harry, extra counter this, or this is how I like to play with Harry, and do that with all the echoes as you go through. I don't want to say this every time. So yeah, just hit the comments with your extra things that you like to add. I'm just going over a few basic things that I've found so far. Next off the bat is Dobby. This is someone that I used very early game, and I would probably say a lot of other people do as well, just because you get a better feel and you can dodge really easily. The main reason people use Dobby as you get higher is just to use the avocado spell, or the Avada Kedavra spell, and it is just, they will sit on the back line, wait for you to do summons, kill off those summons, get those 4 kills with Avada Kedavra. I'm going to just call it avocado because I don't like saying the whole thing. Once they get those 4 kills, they'll blink next to you, hit Inflatus, and boom, kill you, and it's an instant death. Doesn't matter how much health you have. It is infuriating. Seriously, it is infuriating. Especially if you've gone into a duel with a Hagrid or a Neville or any of those high summon decks, you get absolutely obliterated. Seriously, it is very, very hard to beat them, because once they get that up, they nearly never miss if they're good enough. Seriously, they never miss. The main counter to Dobby, or to it's really just the avocado spell, is Hermione that I found. Even Harry does counter the Avada Kedavra spell because you don't summon very much. But with my Hermione deck, I don't summon anyone except my companions. This means that they have 0 chance to get the avocado to full lock and full damage instant kill, because I only have 3 companions that get dropped down. This means they get 3 kills. You need 4. So they literally have no win strategy against a Hermione. You go up higher and you go, why are people using Dobby? It's because of the avocado spell. And if they see you with Hermione, they're going to block out your Hermione. Trust me. My Hermione is gone every time there's a Dobby on the opposite side. And people only put Dobby in if they're going to use it. There's a little sneak peek of how my next video is really going to go about choosing which decks to ban and which ones to use against what's left. It's just that counterintuitive play. But if you didn't know, Dobby gives you an extra 3 movement cards, plus every second movement, you blink instead of walking. After you blink, there's a Phantom Dobby that comes up that takes damage equal to 126 of your attack. So not much at all. It doesn't even last there that long, but it may take some summons attention just for a little bit. That's about it for Dobby. Again, the main counter, because it's usually always paired with an avocado spell. Seriously, if you play against a Dobby that doesn't have it, I don't see why they would be doing it, because they don't get any benefit from Dobby other than being able to teleport, which isn't that big of a bonus in my eyes. So the main thing, you just want to have 0 summons, or summon as little as possible. If you have a deck with only 1 or 2 summons, I would just avoid putting those summons up, because they will instantly kill them, and then once they've got their 4 kills up, they will kill you instantly. Seriously, they will be that good that they inflate you, or they will look like they're doing their avocado somewhere else, blink next to you, and just kill you. Seriously, it comes out of nowhere. It is such a good strat, and I'm going to need to learn it so I can show it to you guys. Next up, we have Hagrid. This is probably everyone's either most hated or most loved Echo. It's either, if you use this Echo, you absolutely love it. If you don't use this Echo, it's probably the first one you get banned, or the first one that you ban when you get into a battle. So what Hagrid does is he raises the attack speed of the highest cost summon by 50%, and every time this summon takes a total damage equal to 50% of its max health, it will recover 28% of its max health within 2 seconds. This effect can be triggered up to 3 times. Okay? So Hagrid is usually paired with a Fiendfire, Locomotor, Opal Eye, one of those really higher cost summons that are super annoying to kill anyway. And when you get them below 50%, they just start healing back up to 28%. This makes them really hard to kill, especially the Locomotors, because there's 2 of them. You think you got them down and, well, up goes their health. It's such a great deck to play with, and it is a very summon-heavy deck. You will do your normal summons like that, but you also, especially if you go with a Fiendfire, you're going to have Spiders, you're going to have Cornish Pixies, you're going to have all these other summons going out as well, because you want them to get killed so your Fiendfire can build up and just become an absolute beast. I do find that Hagrid is like the first one banned if you're against it. That's why it's in my 3 decks. I just put Hagrid in there so people ban it. I don't use it. It's just there as a little bluff. Look, I can use a Hagrid if you want me to, kind of way. I think people are kind of catching on to it as you get further up. Counter-wise, it's very hard. Very hard. Once they get going and their Locomotors and that are just absolutely like parading through yourself, they are very hard to kill. So the main counters that you would have are your companions. You got McGonagall, you've got Ivy, you've got Cassandra, you've got Ron. All of these will really help you take down those high cost summons that are coming at you. Obviously, the placement of Cassandra needs to be down the back. You need to wait for the opportune moment to use your Ron. Same with the McGonagall. You want to put her right at the back so she can stay alive as long as possible. Take down your enemies. Bella is a really good counter as well, but you can get really overrun with summons as well if you don't bring them down as fast as possible. So it is a really hard deck to go against, and it's probably why it's a lot of people's most hated. The Weasley twins is a weird one. I hadn't really come across them very much until I got to where I am now, which is just below 9,000. Even at the lower end of the 8,100s and above, there wasn't very many. As I get to now, I see them all the time. And again, if I see that Fred and George are in their 3 decks that they pick, it's probably their preferred deck. People don't just put them in there. So what the Weasley twins do, the health of your companion cards will be increased by 5%. Furthermore, their cooldown will also be reduced by 14.5 seconds. That means that you get your companions out before your opponent, and they have more health than your opponent. Okay, that's number 1. Next up, exhausting all companion cards within your hand will grant you 1 random companion card from your deck. Can be triggered 3 times. So this means you get 6 companions per duel. This is massive. Seriously, I didn't think anyone played with this deck until I've come up against them now. They are very hard to beat. So your whole deck strategy is based around your companions going out. You want strong companions. You're going to be bringing your Rons. You're going to bring your Cassandras. Ivy maybe just as a counter for whoever you come up against. McGonagall's probably going to be there. I'm unsure if Kevin stacks, but that is also another one that would be really good to pair with him. Definitely Hermione, because you bring that around again and you just lay down your nukes. As for the deck setup, you can pretty much do whatever you want, but it needs to be around your companion cards. Deck setup, you can probably play however you want. If you want to play more summons heavy or spells heavy, it's up to you, but it kind of just needs to revolve around keeping your companions alive and getting the most damage out of them as possible. So one really good card that I do see with that is the Swelling Potion. You put that out on your summons, your companions, they get bigger, they get more attack, they get more health, they absolutely lay down nukes even more than what they did before. This deck is really fun and actually really hard to come up against because you run out of companions and then they're dropping more companions on you and they just overrun you. You really need to finish this fight fast if you come up against a Weasley deck. Seriously, it is a lot harder than what you expect, because you may only have your 3 companions that can counter them, and then once they put them more out, they literally just overrun you. I haven't found a massive counter to these guys yet, because I'm only just starting to experience them. I'll try and avoid these as much as possible. If I see them in my opponent's deck, that's probably the one that I'm going to ban from them, because that seems like the same as Dobby. If it's in their deck, they're probably going to be using that deck. Next up, we got old Newt Scamander. So he is an absolute summons beast. For every 3 summons used, you will obtain a 1-cost derivative card, randomly chosen from Erumpet, Thunderbird, and T-Bow Charge. The strength of the attained card will be based on the average card level of your deck and the rarity of your current Echo. So he has been around for a while, and your absolute spam deck comes from him. It is very, very hard to counter, because literally summons will be coming at you consistently. 2 and 3 cost summons will be laid down at all times. It is super hard to counter, the same as like your Hagrid before, because it's non-stop summons coming at you. Again, this is something you'll need to think of when you go to ban decks. Do you want to go against a summons deck or not? Get rid of it. Trying to counter this is really, really hard. Obviously, you can't really attack your opponent very much, because you've got to worry about all these summons coming at you. You want your big AoE attacks, like your Incendio or Expulsios, just to get them away, do some damage. And you'll see, eventually, if you run around enough, they'll group together behind you, and that's when you lay down your Incendio. If you do a correct placement of Incendio, it will pretty much kill any summons in one go, if not one, just less than one, and then you just do a basic attack and it will take them down. So it's all about timing with your attacks. If you're trying to counter it, make sure your attacks are doing damage to more than one opponent at a time. Obviously, your Confringo will work very well on this one as well, because it bounces off a lot of targets and does a lot of damage. And your Sectum Sempra, whatever it is, that one as well will do lots of damage, because it's going to bounce off as many opponents as possible. So if you do want to go up against Newt decks and you do want to try and take them down, make sure you have spells that can do damage to a lot of opponents at the same time, and maybe even a couple of summons just to take their attention away from you for a second. Good old Severus Snape is up next. He's a funny one. You see him every now and again, but it's not that often, but you can tell straight away it's a Snape. So what he does, your attack goes up by 52%. This is your basic attack. And he replaces every second basic attack with a Sectum Sempra. Okay? So what you need to do, if you want to play him, is put Kevin first in your companions. Seriously, this is number 1. Kevin gets put straight in, and Time Turner gets put straight in as well. When you start, Kevin goes to the back, you go to the front, try and do as many basic attacks as possible. Use that Kevin ability to get your basic attacks up even more. Seriously, you will do an enormous amount of damage just from basic attacks because of this. And your Time Turner will do the same damage as you, well, maybe a little bit less damage than you, but it's still a lot. To counter Snape, you need to kill Kevin as fast as possible. Seriously, he needs to be gone. That extra bonus that Kevin gives your opponent is absolutely enormous, and it's paramount to their whole strategy. So you take down Kevin, and you need to keep distance from your opponent. You don't want them doing basic attacks and getting easy Sectum Sempers off at you. Kill Kevin as fast as possible, kill Time Turners as quick as possible, and stay far away from Snape as possible and use your spells to kill him. Once I get Kevin going and get the full amount of bonus, and then maybe even 1 or 2 Time Turners down, it's very, very hard to come back from that. And Ron does not take a Time Turner. He does not pick it up because it isn't a summon. It is another version of the opponent, so he won't pick it up. It's caught me off guard a few times, thinking, oh yeah, I'll just Ron him. Does not work. Ron does not work on Time Turners. 3 more to go, and they are 3 big ones. Actually, to be honest, all of these echoes are massive. They are all used all the time, and this is why I like this game so much. Everything is used. Nothing is here just as a place getter. And the next one we have is Hermione Granger. If you've been around the channel for any amount of time, you know that Hermione is the card that I use myself. It is my main echo that I use, and I absolutely love it. So why is she my favorite? For every 3 spells that I use, the MP required for the highest cost card in your deck is halved. There is also a 50% that the level of that card gets a +1. So putting that into an example, if you have Thunder, that gets brought down to 3 MP when you use it. 3 MP is very, very easy to get. Doing 3 spells to actually hit this proc is easy. A Pugno, Broomstick, Nebulous, Expulsio. There is 4 cards straight off the bat. When I load in, I can do pretty much all 4 of those. And then I've already got my Thunder down to 3. This is imperative. You need to load your deck with those couple of little ones, and then those high cost cards, your Thunders, your Obscurus, your Crucio, your Avocado, your Whizbangs, will all halve. They'll come down to either 3 or 4. If you keep them in your deck long enough, they'll even drop down again, down to 2. Down to 2. So you can use Whizbang for 2 MP. This is absolutely absurd. Not usually you'll keep them in your deck long enough so they double drop. Sometimes my Obscurus will drop down to 2 because I don't like to use it very often. But other than that, it doesn't happen very, very often. The main ones that counter me, because I may as well talk from experience, the Weasley twins do, because I can't kill them quick enough, or I don't have anything to deal with the companions once they're done. Because my main thing is to try and get it one-on-one and just absolutely thunder the crap out of my opponent. Maybe it might be better if I use the Inflatus and then Whizbang, because that would kill off a lot more enemies than my Thunder would. But that's maybe for me to think about as I go forward. High summons decks are very hard to beat because you don't have that big AoE damage. I do have Incendio in my repertoire with her. I do use that to try and kill Locomotives, Opalize, and things like that once they come onto the board, or even your Bellatrix side ads, they get a Incendio straight off the bat just to kill them. Get them out of the game. You want to kill summons as quick as possible if you're using Hermione. Good old Mr. Longbottom. Neville. He was someone that I did not see used up until maybe a week or 2 ago. Maybe it's because people down low don't use him, or maybe because he only just became a meta, but man, they are everywhere now. And they are very, very, very hard to beat. So let's talk about what Neville does. When there are no opponents in your attack range, your basic attacks will instead heal the closest ally unit within range. The amount you heal is equal to 70% of your attack, plus 75% for non-player targets. Your deck needs to be filled with summons. This Unicorn, Acromantula's Nest, Whomping Willow, the Fire Crab, things like that you can sit along the back here, that will then go to your opponent and attack them. You need to make a wall, you need to make as many summons on your side, you need to keep healing them. You want Essence of Dittany, you want maybe a Pisky in there as well, one or the other, up to you. And you just want as many summons on your side of the field, so if they do, say, a Thunder or something, it's probably not going to hit you because there's so many other things it can hit. The only thing that really is the downside to a Neville is it's slow. It is very slow. Because all you're doing is loading up your side of the deck and letting the summons do the work. You don't want to go close to your opponent at all. It's not in your strategy to get up there and be offensive. You are a defensive unit. You stay on your side. You load up your side. And then as time goes by, you will just have too many summons for them to deal with. The biggest counter that I've seen to a Neville deck, if you do come up against them, AoEs, you want your Incendios, you want to really take down the units as soon as they get put down. If a unicorn drops, kill it. Cassandra is there, take her down. If Neville walks away from their summons, you attack them then. You Obscurus them. You Crucio them. If they move out of their safe space, you need to rain down damage. This is the only time you have. And you need to win this fight fast. Bella has been my best answer to a Neville deck because you start getting your side adds doing Crucio, and they usually, not always, but they usually focus on your opponent before they focus on summons. And they can go in and just be a little bit of a sacrificial thing, and so you can take down fire crabs and whatever else. But yeah, Bella has been my biggest and best way of countering the Neville deck. If Neville's played correctly, it is very, very hard to even just get attacks on your opponent because they are just surrounded by too many summons, and you can't get a single target onto them. Last, but definitely not least, this is a lot of people's favorite Echo, especially right now. If you don't see a Bella and you do probably 3 battles, you are in luck. Seriously, they are bloody everywhere. And why is that? The fallen bar. You will know exactly when you come up against a Bella because there will be a bar above her head or below her health bar. Every time you damage an opponent, your fallen bar will increase by 4. And 1 if the target is not a fellow student. Filling up the fallen bar to 124 will summon 1 Death Eater. The bar will start to drop until it reaches 0, at which point the accumulation starts again. This happens because they don't let the Death Eaters attack their first attack, raise that bar straight back up, because if they Crucioed your opponent, the bar would go straight back up and you'd get more Death Eaters straight off the bat. So the Death Eaters, the first time there'll be 1, the second time there'll be 2, the next time there'll be 3, and then it's just 3 every time after that. As many as 3 Death Eaters can be present at the same time. The Death Eater's attributes will be based on the average level of your deck and the rarity of your current Echo. So as we know, after Obscurus has popped up, Bella has just become even more prevalent. This has happened because Bella is a very, very fun deck. It is a highly offensive deck, which a lot of people like being an offensive person. What's the main position that people want to be in soccer? Football. Striker. Quidditch? Striker. People want to score goals. They want to be offensive. Most of the time. Most people do. And it is a fun deck to play with. Who doesn't want to go and do heaps of damage to your opponent? And Obscurus has just added onto this. If you're nearly close to filling that bar, if you Obscurus your opponent, you will drop the Death Eaters next to your opponent as well, because they drop close to where you are. It's a little bit random, it's a bit of a circle, but if you're on your opponent's side of the pitch, they will drop down there too, and you will absolutely melt your opponent. It is such a good combo, and it is so fun to play with, and there is many different ways. My deck that I use doesn't even use Obscurus in it. Maybe I might go through this deck. I have to ask someone because it is kind of a bit of a copy of theirs. I've just got to ask them if I'm allowed to do a video on that. I'll definitely give them praise. If you do watch this, let me know anyway. She is amazing. What you need to do to counter Bella. My major counter I use is Hermione, just because I play with her all the time. But you can't let her get on the front foot. What they want to do is put you into a corner, make you move. As you've probably seen, there's a lot of Bella decks that have the beater in it, because they want you to move, they want you to use all of your move cards. Once you've used all your move cards, you're a sitting duck. But as soon as you see that bar is getting close to full, you need to have spells waiting and ready. You need your Incendios, something that you can pinpoint onto your opponent's Death Eater that drops and kill them straight away. Or even a broomstick. A broomstick works, okay? And that works by, as soon as that Death Eater drops, you broomstick towards it, make it do its Crucio. As soon as you get back to your spot, it will stop. Crucio done. You can take a little bit longer to kill it. Don't take too long, because it will Crucio again. And what you need to do with Bella is kill her as fast as possible. You cannot have a long battle against a Bella. Once it goes longer and 3 Death Eaters are spawning at the same time, you have no hope, because they don't spawn next to each other. And they don't spawn at the same time. They are staggered and they are across the board. You cannot kill them all in one shot. Okay? Ivy works well, McGonagall works well. But yeah, you will see Bella a lot. There's a fair few different decks to use with Bella as well, so it's hard to do a very definitive counter, but you need to kill her fast, you need to get on top, and you need to make her move. You need her to use all her moves first instead of you. Once they get the upper hand, you're pretty much done for. As we can see, we've come to the end of the echoes. Hopefully I've given you a little bit better of a backstory on how all these echoes work. If you want to go a little bit deeper than this, make sure you hit that bell down below, because my next video, I'm going to post it just up here once it's done. But once you're waiting, it is going to be about dueling and picking the right deck to ban from your opponent. Again, it's all about strategy, it's about mind games, and trying to really put yourself in the right position to win. This kind of overview had to be done first, because you needed to know that Hagrid, Newt, and Neville are mainly summons decks, and the others are mainly spell decks. Your Weasley's a bit of both. Okay, so that's what you really need to know going into this next one, what to counter it, what echoes you use, and then this next video is really going to elaborate on that and just kind of pull it all together. Okay, hopefully I'll see you in that video. Thanks for listening.